The Galactic Coalition's training facility on Kepler 442b buzzed with activity. Hundreds of different alien species moved through the massive complex, their various forms of locomotion creating a symphony of clicks, thuds, and whispers against the metallic floors. Commander Zekthar, a towering Vorthan with 4 arms and scales that shimmered like oil on water, stood before the assembled troops. "Today marks the arrival of our newest members," Zekthar announced, his voice carrying the distinctive dual tone of his species. "The humans of Earth have finally joined our ranks." A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. The Krillians, with their mantis-like bodies, clicked their mandibles in amusement. The gelatinous blob forms from Proxima Centauri wobbled with mirth. Even the usually stoic mechanoids allowed their optical sensors to flicker in what passed for humor among their kind. "Humans?" scoffed Warrior First Class Grixnall, a reptilian soldier whose species had conquered 17 star systems. "Those soft, pink creatures who only recently discovered faster-than-light travel? What could they possibly contribute to the Coalition's military might?" The laughter grew louder when the human contingent entered the training hall. 12 humans in simple combat fatigues looked almost comically small compared to the alien warriors around them. No natural armor, no extra limbs, no apparent biological weapons, just bipedal mammals with thin skin and no visible enhancements. Captain Sarah Chen led the human team, her dark eyes scanning the room with calm assessment. Behind her, Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez carried a long case that drew curious glances. The other humans spread out slightly, their movements precise despite the mocking atmosphere. "Welcome, humans," Zekthar said, his tone professional despite the amusement dancing in his 6 eyes. "Perhaps you'd like to demonstrate your combat capabilities? We understand Earth has some unique military traditions. We'd be happy to participate in a combat demonstration," Chen replied evenly. "What did you have in mind, Commander?" Zekthar gestured to a massive holographic display that materialized in the center of the hall. It showed a complex urban environment spanning several square kilometers. "This is a standard Coalition combat simulation. 2 teams, objective-based warfare. The goal is to eliminate enemy commanders while protecting your own." "Interesting," Chen said, studying the terrain. "What's the maximum engagement range in this simulation?" The question triggered another wave of laughter. Sub-Commander Yelt, a 4-meter-tall warrior covered in chitinous armor, stepped forward. "Maximum range? Perhaps 200 meters for plasma weapons. 300 for our best marksmen. Why do you ask? Little human? Planning to run away?" Rodriguez spoke for the first time, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. "Our snipers typically engage targets at 1,500 to 2,000 meters, sometimes more." The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by confused silence. The translator systems throughout the hall hummed as they processed the statement multiple times, confirming the numbers were correct. "Impossible," Grixnall snarled. "No warrior can accurately strike at such distances. The target would be invisible to the naked eye." Chen smiled slightly. "That's what scopes are for. But if you'd prefer, we can restrict ourselves to your typical engagement ranges. We wouldn't want an unfair advantage." The insult, delivered so politely, sent a wave of anger through the alien troops, warriors who had conquered worlds, who had fought in dozens of campaigns across the galaxy, being offered a handicap by these newcomers. "No restrictions," Zekthar declared, his professional composure cracking. "Let's see what Earth's warriors can really do. Coalition veterans versus humans. Standard elimination rules." The simulation arena materialized around them, a sprawling cityscape with towering structures, narrow alleys, and elevated positions. The Coalition forces immediately took defensive positions, their plasma weapons and energy shields activating with familiar hums and crackles. They numbered 30 of the galaxy's finest warriors, each one a decorated veteran of multiple campaigns. The humans dispersed differently. 6 took forward positions, moving through the urban terrain with surprising stealth for creatures without natural camouflage abilities. But the other 6, including Rodriguez, simply vanished into the vertical maze of the city. "Where did half of them go?" Sub-Commander Yelt muttered, scanning his tactical display. The human heat signatures had somehow become intermittent, appearing and disappearing, like ghosts. High above, on a building 2 kilometers from the coalition position, Rodriguez settled into position. His rifle, a product of centuries of human warfare evolution, was unlike anything the aliens had encountered. Where their weapons relied on energy output and rapid fire, human sniper rifles were studies in precision engineering. Every component crafted to deliver a single, perfect shot across impossible distances. Through his scope, Rodriguez could see the coalition commanders clearly. They stood in what they believed was perfect cover, protected by energy shields, and surrounded by their troops. At this distance, they might as well have been standing in an open field. Echo 1 in position, he whispered into his comm. Target acquired. Wind speed negligible in simulation. No atmospheric interference. It's like shooting in a vacuum. Copy, Echo 1. Chen's voice came back. All Echo elements report ready, marking targets. Around the city, 5 other human snipers had taken positions at extreme ranges. Each had multiple targets pre-selected. Their rifles advanced ballistics computers calculating trajectories that seemed impossible to the alien warriors below. The coalition forces advanced confidently. Their scanners showed the 6 humans ahead of them, taking cover in buildings a mere 300 meters away. Close enough for a quick assault. Prepare for combat, Zekthar ordered. Remember, these humans have no energy shields, no armor worth mentioning. This should be quick. Lieutenant Aisha Patel, one of the forward humans, listened to the aliens' communications through intercepted channels. The universal translators made their overconfidence clear. She keyed her radio. Echo team, targets are feeling confident. They're about to advance into the kill box. Copy, came Rodriguez's calm voice. Beginning the lesson, the first shot came without warning. Sub-Commander Yelt's head snapped back, the simulation registering a perfect headshot from 1,800 meters. His form flickered and vanished from the exercise, eliminated. Before the sound of the shot even reached the coalition position, 3 more commanders fell. Perfect shots through gaps in cover that the aliens hadn't even realized existed. The simulation's hit markers showed kill shots from distances that their tactical computers marked as errors. Impossible, Zekthar roared, diving for better cover. No one can shoot that far. It must be a simulation error. Another shot answered him. The warrior beside him, a veteran who had survived the siege of Kalos Prime, dropped with a chest hit from 2,100 meters. Panic spread through the coalition ranks. They were taking fire from enemies they couldn't see, couldn't detect, couldn't even comprehend. Their energy weapons, so effective in typical combat ranges, couldn't even reach the distances the shots were coming from. Find those snipers, someone screamed. Advance teams, locate and destroy. The coalition forces split up, sending units in multiple directions to find their tormentors. It was exactly what Chen had been waiting for. Echo team, they're splitting up. Free fire. Delta team, you're up. The 6 forward humans emerged from cover, but not to retreat. They advanced with practiced precision, each carrying weapons that looked primitive compared to alien plasma rifles, but were devastatingly effective. As coalition troops rushed to find snipers kilometers away, they ran straight into close-range ambushes. The human soldiers moved like ghosts through the urban terrain, using tactics refined through millennia of warfare. They struck from unexpected angles, disappeared into structures the aliens considered impassable, and coordinated with the invisible snipers to create kill zones that decimated the scattered coalition forces. Rodriguez watched through his scope as another commander tried to rally troops in what he thought was a protected courtyard. The alien was good, using cover effectively and keeping his vital areas protected from ground-level fire. But Rodriguez wasn't at ground level. He was 2.3 kilometers away and 40 stories up. The shot was challenging even for him. Wind patterns between the buildings, the target's movement, the slight delay between trigger pull and impact. He exhaled slowly, letting his heartbeats settle into the rhythm all snipers knew. In the space between heartbeats, He squeezed the trigger. The simulation recorded another perfect headshot. In 20 minutes, it was over. 30 of the Coalition's finest warriors had been eliminated without landing a single hit on the human forces. The final tally showed 18 kills from sniper fire at ranges between 1,500 and 2,400 meters, with the remaining 12 eliminated in close combat ambushes. The simulation ended with a soft chime, and the Coalition warriors rematerialized in the training hall. The silence that followed was deafening. 30 of the galaxy's most elite soldiers stood in stunned disbelief, their earlier mockery replaced by something approaching fear. Commander Zekthar's scales had shifted to a pale green, a sign of deep disturbance among his species. He approached Captain Chen slowly, his forearms hanging loose at his sides. "How?" was all he managed to say. Chen nodded to Rodriguez, who set down his rifle case and opened it. The assembled aliens pressed closer, trying to understand what they had just experienced. Inside the case lay what looked like a simple projectile weapon, its long barrel and complex scope system foreign to warriors accustomed to energy weapons. "This is a human sniper rifle," Rodriguez explained, his tone matter-of-fact. "It fires a solid projectile at approximately 900 meters per second. The scope uses a combination of optical and digital enhancement to provide clear target acquisition at extreme ranges." "But the precision," Yelt interjected, his earlier arrogance completely gone. "To hit targets at such distances, accounting for movement, wind, even the curve of a planet's surface. That's what snipers train for," Rodriguez said simply. "Years of practice, mathematics, patience, understanding that the space between heartbeats can mean the difference between a hit and a miss." Grixnall pushed forward, his reptilian features twisted in anger. "Cowards' weapons! Where is the honor in killing an enemy who cannot even see you?" Lieutenant Patel stepped forward, her expression hardening. "Tell me, Warrior Grixnall, where is the honor in sending soldiers to die needlessly? Our snipers can eliminate enemy leadership, disable critical equipment, and save countless lives by ending conflicts before they truly begin. We call it force multiplication." "Your entire approach to warfare is wrong," another alien protested. "Combat is about strength, courage, facing your enemy." Chen shook her head. "With respect, that's where you're mistaken. Human warfare is about winning. It's about bringing your soldiers home alive. It's about using every advantage, every piece of technology, every tactical innovation to ensure victory with minimal casualties." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed a replay of the simulation. "Your forces bunched together, relied on shields that only work against energy weapons, and assumed engagement would occur at ranges you were comfortable with. You fought the way you've always fought, because it's always worked before." The replay showed Rodriguez's first shot in slow motion, the projectile traveling an impossible distance to find its mark with surgical precision. Several aliens made sounds of discomfort as they watched their simulated selves fall one after another to an enemy they never saw coming. "Humans have been killing each other for thousands of years," Chen continued. "We've turned warfare into a science. Every technology you see is primitive: projectile weapons, chemical explosives, even blade combat. We've refined to levels you can't imagine, because while you were developing energy shields to stop plasma bolts, we were developing rounds that could punch through tank armor. While you were extending your range to 300 meters, we were pushing past 3,000. Zekthar had been silent throughout the exchange, his 6 eyes studying the humans with new respect. Finally, he spoke. "Show us more." Over the next several hours, the humans demonstrated capabilities that left the Coalition forces reeling. They showed how human snipers could remain motionless for days, waiting for the perfect shot. They explained the concept of spotters, 2-person teams where one reads wind patterns and calculates distances, while the other focuses solely on the shot. They demonstrated how modern human sniper rifles could fire rounds that arrived at their target faster than the speed of sound, meaning death could come before the victim even heard the shot. But it wasn't just about snipers. The humans showed tactics that seemed insane to alien minds. Soldiers who could navigate by stars, blend into any environment without high-tech camouflage, and most disturbingly, continue fighting even when severely wounded. Human evolution was brutal, Chen explained as they watched footage of Earth's various biomes. We had no natural weapons, no armor, no inherent advantages except our brains and our endurance, so we became persistence predators. We learned to track prey for days, to work in coordinated groups, to use tools and terrain to our advantage. And when we turned those skills on each other, Rodriguez added, we became very, very good at war. Sub-Commander Yelt raised a question that had been bothering many of the aliens. But surely this is just one aspect of combat. In ship-to-ship battles, in energy weapon exchanges, Chen smiled. Would you like to run another simulation? Space combat this time? The resulting exercise was even more humiliating for the coalition forces. Human tactics in space were just as unorthodox and devastatingly effective. They used kinetic weapons, simple mass accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. They employed stealth technologies that made their ships nearly invisible against the background of space. Most unnervingly, they showed a willingness to use guided missiles with ranges measured in light minutes rather than kilometers. You have to understand, Chen said, as they watched a coalition dreadnought get torn apart by missiles it never saw coming. Humans didn't develop space combat by fighting aliens. We developed it by planning to fight ourselves. Every dirty trick, every devastating weapon, every tactical innovation comes from asking ourselves one question. How would we defeat us? The assembled aliens were beginning to understand something profound. Humans weren't just another species joining the Galactic Coalition. They were something entirely different. A species that had turned warfare into an art form through sheer necessity. I notice your warriors show no fear, one of the mechanoids observed, its synthesized voice carrying a note of curiosity. Even when outnumbered 30-12, there was no stress response. Sergeant Rodriguez chuckled. Ma'am, with all due respect, we've trained against humans. After you've gone through SEER school, had Navy SEALs hunting you through a swamp for a week, and survived Ranger selection, a straight-up fight where we can see our enemies and they announce their positions with glowing plasma weapons? That's practically a vacation. The human humor in the face of what other species considered deadly serious combat was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of all. These weren't warriors who fought for glory or conquest. They were professionals who treated warfare like any other job, something to be done efficiently and well. As the day progressed, more disturbing revelations emerged. Humans had weapons that could level cities without radiation. They called them thermobaric explosives. They had developed viruses specifically designed to target electronics. They had contingency plans for fighting in every conceivable environment, including plans for if Earth itself was destroyed. We call it mutually assured destruction, Chen explained when asked about their nuclear arsenals. The ability to ensure that anyone who destroys us dies with us. It kept our species from destroying ourselves during our development. Barely. But perhaps the most frightening demonstration came when Rodriguez explained human insurgency tactics. Say your empire conquers Earth, he said to a group of increasingly uncomfortable alien officers. You've defeated our military, occupied our cities. Congratulations. Now you have 8 billion humans who know how to make explosives from household chemicals, can turn any vehicle into a weapon, and have a cultural history full of successful resistance movements. Every single human becomes a potential threat. He pulled up historical examples. The French resistance, the Viet Cong, the Afghan Mujahideen. Tiny forces that had held off empires through guerrilla warfare, turning their supposed weakness into strength. You're telling us, Zekthar said slowly, that even your civilians are dangerous? Ever heard of the Second Amendment? One of the other humans piped up. Half our civilian population is armed. The other half knows how to make improvised weapons. Good luck occupying that. Night fell over the training facility, but the discussions continued. What had started as a simple demonstration had evolved into a comprehensive re-evaluation of galactic military doctrine. The coalition's military leaders, representing dozens of species and hundreds of worlds, found themselves students learning from a species they had dismissed hours earlier. In a private conference room, the senior commanders gathered around a holo-table. Commander Zekthar had called this emergency meeting after spending hours reviewing human military history with growing alarm and fascination. "We need to discuss the implications," Zekthar began, his scales now showing the deep purple of serious contemplation. "The humans haven't just shown us new weapons or tactics. They've revealed fundamental flaws in how we approach warfare." General Krath, a silicon-based life form whose crystalline structure had made him nearly invulnerable in hundreds of battles, spoke first. "Their combat philosophy is completely inverse to ours. We seek to demonstrate superiority through direct confrontation. They seek to win before the battle even begins." The sniper demonstration was just the beginning, Sub-Commander Yelt added, calling up the battle recordings. "Look at how their forward elements moved. Every action designed to force us into their snipers' kill zones. They turned our aggression against us." On the human side of the facility, Captain Chen sat with her team in their assigned quarters. The day had gone better than she had hoped, but she knew the real challenge was just beginning. "Think they'll actually learn from this?" Lieutenant Patel asked, cleaning her rifle out of habit rather than necessity. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. "They'll have to. The Krethak Dominion won't give them a choice." Odysseus C. The Krethak Dominion, the reason humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition in the first place, a militant empire expanding through the galaxy, consuming worlds and enslaving species. They fought with overwhelming numbers and complete disregard for casualties, viewing warriors as expendable resources. "The Coalition's been holding them off through superior technology," Chen mused, "but that advantage is shrinking. The Krethak adapt quickly, which is why they need us," another soldier added. "Not our weapons or our ships, but our way of thinking. The Krethak fight like a virus, spreading everywhere, overwhelming through numbers. You don't fight a virus with a sword." Back in the conference room, the alien commanders had reached similar conclusions. Holographic displays showed the expanding Krethak threat, their infected worlds spreading like a disease through the galaxy. "Every battle follows the same pattern," General Krath noted. "They send waves of warriors to overwhelm our positions. We inflict massive casualties, but they don't care. For every one we kill, 3 more arrive. The humans would call this a target-rich environment," Zekthar said thoughtfully. "Imagine human snipers deployed along our defensive lines. A single human marksman could eliminate hundreds of Krethak commanders before they even reached our positions." "It's not just snipers," Yelt interjected. "The psychological warfare potential. The Krethak rely on their warriors believing in inevitable victory through numbers. What happens when they start dying to invisible enemies? When their commanders fall before battles begin?" The discussion was interrupted by an urgent alert. Coalition scouts had detected a Krethak fleet massing near the Vega system, preparing for another expansion push. The local defense force was requesting immediate reinforcement. Zekthar looked around the table. "This could be our chance to test human tactics in actual combat. Captain Chen's unit is the only human force currently available. 12 humans against a Krethak invasion force?" General Krath's skepticism was evident, even with their skills. "Let's ask them," Zekthar decided. 30 minutes later, both groups met in the Tactical Planning Center. The situation was displayed in grim detail. 3 inhabited worlds in the Vega system, defended by a modest coalition fleet and ground forces. The Krethak fleet outnumbered them 5 to 1. "We're not asking you to stop the invasion," Zekthar explained to the humans. "But if you could assist our forces, perhaps demonstrate these tactics in real combat." Chen studied the display intently. "Show me the terrain on the primary world." The planet Vega 3 materialized in holographic detail. Mountain ranges, urban centers, vast plains. Rodriguez whistled softly. "Those mountain passes are perfect. Natural choke points." "What's the Krethak command structure like?" Chen asked. "Rigidly hierarchical," Yelt answered. "They use pheromone-based communication. Kill a commander, and their units become disorganized until another takes charge." The humans exchanged glances. Chen saw the same thought in all their eyes. This was what they'd trained for their entire careers. "We'll need complete intelligence on Krethak biology," Chen said. "Weak points, sensory capabilities, reaction times. Everything. You're going to help?" Zekthar couldn't hide his relief. "On one condition," Chen replied. "We do this our way. Your forces need to adapt to our tactics, not the other way around. And we'll need volunteers from your troops, soldiers willing to learn and implement human warfare doctrine." The next 72 hours transformed the Coalition's approach to the coming battle. Human instructors worked around the clock, teaching alien soldiers concepts that seemed counterintuitive to warriors raised on traditions of honorable combat. They taught the art of the ambush, how to turn terrain into a weapon. They demonstrated improvised explosives, showing how simple mining charges could be turned into devastating trap networks. Most importantly, they introduced the concept of asymmetric warfare. "You don't fight strength with strength," Rodriguez explained to a group of Vorthan warriors. "You fight it with intelligence. Make them pay for every meter of ground. Make them question every shadow, every piece of cover." The mechanoids proved surprisingly adept at learning sniper techniques, their artificial precision adapting well to long-range calculations. The shape-shifting Gellians excelled at infiltration tactics. Even the honor-bound Krillians found value in the human approach once they understood it wasn't cowardice but efficiency. When the Krethak fleet arrived at Vega 3, they expected the usual Coalition defense: shield walls, direct confrontation, honorable combat. They were completely unprepared for what they found. The first wave of dropships descended toward the planet's surface, carrying thousands of Krethak warriors. They never made it. Human-designed surface-to-air missiles, simple kinetic weapons that Coalition forces had considered primitive, tore through the dropships' hulls. The Krethak had shielded against energy weapons but had no defense against simple chunks of metal moving at hypersonic speeds. Those who survived the landing found no enemy to fight. The Coalition forces had abandoned their traditional fortifications, instead spreading throughout the terrain in small, mobile units. Every advance into the mountain passes triggered avalanches, not natural ones, but carefully planned destruction that buried entire Krethak columns. In the command bunker, Chen coordinated the defense with calm efficiency. "Echo Team. Krethak Commander identified in Sector 7. 2,300 meters from your position. Copy. Command. Target acquired." The response came from a mechanoid who had taken to sniping with disturbing enthusiasm. Seconds later, the tactical display showed the commander's signal disappearing. The Krethak units in that sector immediately fell into disarray. Delta Force, they're massing for a push through the Eastern Valley. "Already in position," came the response from mixed human-alien units. "Charges are set. Let them come." The Krethak warriors, bred for combat and knowing no fear, charged into the valley in their thousands. At precisely the right moment, the charges detonated. Not enough to kill them all, but enough to create chaos, to funnel them into prepared kill zones where Coalition forces waited with interlocking fields of fire. For the Krethak, it was a nightmare. Every advance cost them dearly. Their commanders fell to invisible snipers. Their formations shattered against improvised explosives. When they finally reached Coalition positions, they found them empty. The defenders had already relocated, ready to strike from a new direction. But the true genius of human warfare showed in the psychological impact. Krethak warriors, who had never known fear, began to hesitate. They started checking every shadow, every piece of cover. Their advance, which should have been overwhelming, ground to a halt. In space, human tactics proved equally devastating. Coalition ships, following human doctrine, didn't engage in traditional broadside battles. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, launching missile salvos from extreme range and jumping away before the Krethak could respond. Stealth mines, another human innovation, turned shipping lanes into death traps. The battle for Vega 3 lasted 2 weeks. When it ended, the Krethak had been forced to retreat for the first time in their expansionist history. They had lost over 60% of their invasion force, including most of their command structure. Coalition losses were less than 5%. In the aftermath, as coalition forces celebrated their victory, Commander Zekthar found Captain Chen standing alone on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. "This changes everything," he said, joining her. "The Krethak will adapt. Try to counter these tactics." "They will," Chen agreed, "and will adapt faster. That's what humans do." "Your species terrifies me," Zekthar admitted. "Not because of your weapons or tactics, but because of how easily you switch from teaching us to implementing these horrors. How do you live with it?" "End well." Chen was quiet for a moment. "Every human soldier carries the weight of our history. We know what we're capable of, the darkness we can unleash, but we also know why we fight, to protect those who can't protect themselves. To ensure a future where these skills become obsolete." She turned to face him. "The galaxy mocked us for being primitive. But sometimes, Commander, primitive is what you need. Because we've been fighting longer, we've gotten very good at it. And now, the Coalition has access to thousands of years of human warfare, evolution. The Krethak won't know what hit them," Zekthar said. "No," Chen replied with a slight smile. "They really won't. Because the next time they attack, it won't just be 12 humans teaching your forces. Earth is mobilizing. You're about to have millions of human soldiers joining the Coalition, each one trained in the art of war." As news of the victory spread through the galaxy, species that had laughed at humanity's inclusion in the Coalition now clamored for human military advisors. The footage of Krethak forces, previously considered unstoppable, being systematically dismantled by primitive tactics, sent shockwaves through every military institution. On Earth, recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. Humanity had found its place in the galactic community not as conquerors or diplomats, but as what they had always been: survivors who had turned the art of war into a science. The Krethak Dominion, monitoring these developments from their core worlds, began to understand they faced something new. Not just another species with different technology, but a race that had spent its entire existence perfecting the art of killing. A species that treated warfare not as a test of strength or courage, but as a problem to be solved with mathematics, patience, and ruthless efficiency. In the end, the galaxy learned what humanity had known all along. In war, there is no honor or glory. There is only victory or defeat. And humans, for all their physical limitations, had become very, very good at choosing victory. The age of human warfare in the galaxy had begun. And somewhere in the void, human snipers were already setting up their next shots, waiting with inhuman patience for targets that would never see them coming.